Hello, everybody. I'm Jesse Waters, along with Emily Compagno, Juan Williams, Dana Perino, and Greg. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five. Democrats and the media are in full meltdown mode after the House Judiciary Committee voted to hold Attorney General Bill Barr in contempt. They're furious that Barr won't break the law and hand over an unredacted version of the Mueller report. So now Democrats and the media are debuting a coordinated talking point to describe it. Talk about collusion.
Ever wonder what a constitutional crisis looks like? Well, open your eyes.
We are now in a constitutional crisis.
President Trump appears to be heading toward a constitutional crisis.
I saw this coming and mentioned the constitutional crisis.
We're hovering on a constitutional crisis. We're in a constitutional conflict that's careening toward a crisis.
Do you agree with Congressman Nadler, Chairman Nadler, that we're in a constitutional crisis?
We are.
That's what they're saying now. But back in 2012, Democrats and the media were singing a much different tune. Remember when Democrats walked out when Obama Attorney General Eric Holder was held in contempt over the Fast and the Furious scandal? Jerry Nadler called it, quote, shameful and politically motivated. And here's what two other top Democrats said at the time.
Contempt of Congress. Contempt of Congress. It's not only to monopolize his time, it's to undermine his name.
Some of my colleagues on the other side seem almost giddy about today's vote. After turning this investigation into an election year witch hunt.
Witch hunt. And of course, the media also had a very different opinion on holding Holder in contempt.
It just looks like more of our broken politics and vicious fights now out in the open.
Every single Republican voted to hold the Attorney General in contempt over this crazy conspiracy theory.
This is just theater. It amounts to nothing.
A party in the Congress that does just about nothing to create jobs or to help people without jobs decided the best way to do their job is to shower the Obama administration with subpoenas.
All right, let's take a trip down memory lane, Dana. Many presidents have rejected congressional subpoenas. Obama did it with Fast and the Furious and Solyndra. George Bush did it over Harriet Miers and the firing of the U.S. attorneys. And Bill Clinton did it when people wanted the Whitewater documents, and it was never a constitutional crisis until Trump does it.
Well, no, but so for Republicans, though, George W. Bush, it was, right? Because that was that you were not giving information about 7 U.S. attorneys that the president had every right to let go if he wanted to. The thing is, so crisis is the word, but crisis means that you can't handle it. So are Democrats saying that they can't handle it? I don't think that's what they're saying. The other thing, the reason I can't get too interested in this yet is because it was only like 2 months ago that the Fast and Furious scandal got resolved in court. Oh. This was like 2.5 years after President Obama left office. I think that we were midway through President Obama's second term when the Harriet Miers stuff got resolved in the courts. So I'm just going to sit back and let this one go for a little bit.
Okay. Mr. Gutfeld.
Yes.
Constitutional crisis?
Here's what's interesting about whataboutism. It can actually ruin your own. I'm sorry.
Careful.
But when I saw the Democrats talking about Holder, it does sound exactly the same. And I was looking at it and I go, well, if you felt strongly about Holder, then you should understand the other side doing the same thing, because that was a mirror of 2019. It's kind of amazing. So to me, this is why America hates politicians, right? It's just like a ping pong game using the same strategies. And it's why Trump won, was that he stepped out of it. He was outside of the political world. The real constitutional crisis is here at this table, because those idiots at Fox and Friends cooked seafood and this entire studio stinks. My Constitution is not going to make it through this show. I'm telling you, you know what Fox and Friends, if Fox and Friends were a person, they're the jerk that microwaves fish in the office, because this entire studio stinks.
I just thought it was Williams Cologne.
No, I mean, everybody's doing.
I'm sure that Ainsley was against it. I'm pretty sure that she said to kill me, like, we shouldn't do this.
Oh, wait.
He made her do it.
I'm going to do something to their studio tonight, and it's going to stink.
All right, well, it's right up. Well, don't do it, Greg. Juan.
Yes.
So it's a constitutional crisis when William Barr follows the law.
Follows the law?
Yeah, you're not allowed to release grand jury testimony.
Get out of here.
It's illegal.
You know, I love the cover-up, but anyway, let me just say
It's
that
not illegal?
what is going on is there's such a clear distinction. Greg said it's a mirror of what happened in 2012. Well, maybe it's a funhouse mirror in a Republican carnival, because it's not a mirror. What's happening now is a constitutional crisis in the sense that you have...
We should put Juan in the montage.
Okay, you can, because they're right. You have a moment when the president, I mean, Republicans, conservatives love the Constitution. Article 1 of the Constitution says the Congress is the first branch of government, not Article 2, the executive. The Congress has responsibility of oversight for the executive. And every time this has come up, as Dana pointed out, the courts have ruled in favor of the Congress. So
you think a judge is going to rule for the Democrats breaking the law?
It's not breaking any law.
You can't release grand jury testimony.
This is not the point. The point is...
That's what they held him in contempt for.
The point is that they should be negotiating. What the Trump team, what the Barr team have done is totally shut down, iced any conversation about cooperation, about how this could work, about how grand jury testimony could be protected. And again, if this is such a favorable report to President Trump, what's he hiding? It doesn't pass the smell test.
What's he hiding?
Let's try. Go ahead.
I just feel like Democrats use the word crisis. It just means that they're not getting their way. And I feel like they operate always in hyperbole and not reality. And we've heard this before. Remember when people would die from net neutrality? And then when we were discussing the crisis at the border because people were dying and inflation was 1,000,000% and cartels are chokeholding towns and there's a homicide rate of 8 per day in cities, that wasn't a crisis. So I feel like it's only used if it benefits them, and Democrats only act when it benefits them, which is why once the crisis at the border was acknowledged, what have we seen since then to do anything about it? So this doesn't surprise me, but it's going to only be them helping
You know
themselves.
what you should do? You know, we saw that montage earlier of Democrats calling constitutional crisis. If you really want to get a kick, go back to 2012, watch Marco Rubio, watch Lindsey Graham saying that what's going on right there is unacceptable. It's unacceptable that the President of the United States would not forward all this information.
That's my
talk about hypocrisy. Talk about politics.
You just made a lap back to my original point. You're welcome. Here, you know, what the problem with this is that it's terribly unpersuasive. Because what the argument that the Democrats are doing are continually reminding America that they are losers because they keep going back to November 1st. This is about, I'm sorry, the November election when their party was brutally humiliated by the same guy. Over and over again, they relived this humiliation. A guy who just basically walked into a bank and robbed them blind without even using a weapon. And so when they keep bringing this up, they keep bringing up the fact that they're losers. They should use all this tremendous energy they have and devote it to actual issues and ideas. That would be something fun. And maybe figure out how to get rid of this smell.
Maybe, you know, this smell could be coming from Republicans who for 2 years just sat and rotted.
The fish rots at the head, Juan.
Instead of acting in any way as if they were saying to the president, you can't be an autocrat. You can't run an imperial presidency. You're our Republican, but you've got to be president.
What about Obama?
But they represent the people, which they're not doing here.
What's that? Say it.
Oh,
no, go ahead.
You have to go.
Finish him off.
That our elected officials represent the people, and the people on the Hill right now are only representing themselves. They're definitely not representing en masse.
They want to undo an election.
Decisions are for us.
Yeah, and let's remember, 17 Democrats in the House actually crossed over and held Eric Holder in contempt with Republicans.
I wish I'd see that from the Republicans.